8:30 weeknights on 5.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. And tonight, Bill Moyers reports how the used car dealers are trying to cash in on their political contributions. PACs, the highest bidders.
Good evening. It is called the Caribbean Basin Initiative. As described by President Reagan today, it is an unprecedented plan of trade, assistance, and investment by the United States to countries in Central America and the Caribbean. There is, in the Caribbean, the President said, a crisis, adding that the well-being and security of our neighbors in the region are in our own vital interest. Bill Plant has the details in Washington.
Speaking before the ambassadors of the Organization of American States, Mr. Reagan portrayed the nations of the Caribbean region as poised to make one of two choices, constitutional government or dictatorship. He charged Cuba and Nicaragua with exporting revolution and suggested there was a propaganda campaign underway to confuse the nature of the conflict in El Salvador.
Very simply, guerrillas armed and supported by and through Cuba are attempting to impose a Marxist-Leninist dictatorship on the people of El Salvador as part of a larger imperialistic plan. If we do not act promptly and decisively in defense of freedom, new Cubas will arise from the ruins of today's conflicts.
The president warned that the U.S. would help defend friendly governments in the region, but he made no specific threat of action.
Let our friends and our adversaries understand that we will do whatever is prudent and necessary to ensure the peace and security of the Caribbean area.
Outlining a program of trade, aid, and investment for the region, Mr. Reagan proposed eliminating U.S. import duties on almost all products from the Caribbean. He will ask Congress for additional emergency aid this year, $350 million in economic assistance and $60 million in military aid. Of that additional money, El Salvador alone would receive as much as $100 million in economic aid and up to $35 million in extra military aid. The Nicaraguan ambassador to the U.S. was unimpressed by the president's offer.
It's a continuation of the policy. It's nothing new for our country.
Does it help or doesn't help? Or?
No, it doesn't help at all. I don't think it's a friendly attitude.
Mexican President Jose López Portillo, who has offered to serve as an intermediary between the U.S. and Cuba and Nicaragua, pushed for talks rather than military action.
And I believe that a people as reasonable as the American people will feel prouder of giving their support to a reasonable solution than to a violent solution.
Mr. Reagan said his development plan for the Caribbean would exclude no one, but administration officials made it plain the offer was for friends or would-be friends of the U.S. The tough talk directed at Cuba and Nicaragua was designed to stake out a clear U.S. position. However, asked later today under what conditions he would use military force, Mr. Reagan replied, "I told you they would have to bomb the White House." Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
With the bulk of the proposed aid earmarked for El Salvador, reaction there to Mr. Reagan's Caribbean plan, understandably, was positive. Gary Shepard is in San Salvador.
Officials here say the additional U.S. aid to El Salvador can't come fast enough. This country's economy has been all but destroyed by 2 years of guerrilla warfare. Major bridges have been blown up, nearly 3 dozen in the past 12 months. Highway construction projects have been disrupted. Public transportation is on the verge of grinding to a halt because of terrorist bombings of hundreds of buses in recent months. The rebel strategy is to bring down the government by bringing down the economy, and that strategy appears to be working. Businessmen here say the negative impact of the war has been compounded by a sharp decline in world coffee prices. Coffee is El Salvador's biggest export, so there are no longer any international lines of credit. Unemployment is up sharply, hitting 50% during some months. Those businessmen who have not already left the country say the situation is now critical, that the American aid plan is desperately needed.
This aid is as important as the Marshall Plan was for Europe after the Second War. Without it, we are just going to go all the way in the world or in the past to Nicaragua and Cuba.
Many businessmen here say they are unable to look ahead more than a month or two, and one of them noted rather wistfully, the only industries doing well these days are armored cars and funerals. Gary Shepard, CBS News, San Salvador.
There were reports of heavy fighting today between Salvadoran soldiers and rebels near the Guasapo volcano, about 20 miles north of the capital. That area has been a rebel stronghold. Residents near the volcano said troops began landing there late yesterday. Soviet President Brezhnev tonight has opened what appears to be a fresh propaganda campaign regarding strategic nuclear arms. He said the Soviet Union is ready to reach agreement not only on the complete termination of all nuclear weapons tests, but also on ending their further production and on the reduction and subsequent complete elimination of their stockpiles. That's an end of a quotation. Brezhnev made his remarks in a letter to an Austrian pacifist group. Our State Department said it is studying the remarks.
You sure it's okay, dear?
Sure, I'll go shopping.
And I'll go visit the Maytag repairman. Pierre, mon ami, how are you?
Oh, lonely. How else? Maytag watchers, formidable.
We built to last longer and save you money with fewer repairs. Tragique, no?
C'est la vie.
Not all Maytag repairmen are this lonely, but we're trying. Maytag, we also make a great dishwasher.
Is your laxative hard on your system? Hard to take? Well, take it easy with Instant Mix Metamucil. Easy to take along and easy to take. And Instant Mix Metamucil takes it easy on your system because it's made from natural fiber. No chemical stimulants. No wonder doctors recommend Metamucil more often than any other laxative brand. So try Instant Mix Metamucil and take it easy.
If not nature, Metamucil.
With the 1983 Reagan budget hitting a bipartisan wall of resistance on Capitol Hill, the administration nevertheless tried hard again today to sell it. But there also was a hint of reluctant compromise. Susan Spencer reports.
Budget Director Stockman and Presidential Economic Advisor Wiedenbaum were at one committee, Defense Secretary Weinberger at another, Treasury Secretary Regan at still a third, all insisting in the face of snowballing opposition that the fundamentals of the president's budget must not be changed.
There is no overnight solution. If we tinker with the basic thrust of the program, it will never get a chance to work, and we will lapse back into that depressing cycle of low growth and high inflation.
Democrat Hollings declared the president must not be hearing the same things he is.
And it's a sort of cheerleading kind of B-movie session, one for the Gipper or something. I say that in all seriousness. It's disturbing to me because if I were in this kind of trouble, I'd be getting you in the business leadership together and say, look, somehow this thing is going awry. You know it.
In his testimony, Regan did show some new flexibility when asked about a plan offered by Senator Peter Domenici to cut the deficit by $300 billion over the next 3 years. Regan said it was interesting.
What the president has said is that he's willing to listen to any comprehensive package. He did not say he'd accept it. If it's acceptable, yes. If not, no.
And the secretary said repeatedly, tax increases are not acceptable.
What I'm telling you, Senator, is that there are ways to cut more out of this budget. And
I agree with you, including defense, and do you agree with me on that?
I will not touch defense. The President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief. He has more knowledge than I do. I'm Secretary of Treasury, not defense. As far as taxes are concerned, I do not believe that you can balance the budget on the backs of the taxpayers.
If we're not going to balance it on the budget, the back of the American taxpayer, how are we going to do it?
By shrinking the size of the federal government.
I must say, I'm afraid you're in a dream world, and I don't think this administration is facing reality.
Pressure on the White House for more flexibility is expected to mount tomorrow when the Independent Congressional Budget Office presents its analysis of the president's 1983 budget, one expected to show far larger deficits than the president has predicted. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Proponents say phased decontrol of natural gas prices offers lasting benefits to American consumers and the national economy. But critics, including some homeowners, say this wicked winter's experience proves that's so much hot air. Ned Potter has been investigating this.
Natural gas to get through the winter. The question is how its price should be determined. For a homeowner like Stella Malone of Chicago, the price has already risen too much.
Well, we've been cutting back on our heating unit, thinking our gas bill would come smaller. but instead it comes bigger.
The administration would like to decontrol natural gas, let the free market determine the price. Congress already passed the Natural Gas Policy Act of 1978, which would slowly phase out controls. But the administration would like it to happen now, and says the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has the ability effectively to do it without congressional approval.
What they have projected is that the price impact on the consumer ultimately is no different.
Today in Washington, a group of Democratic congressional leaders said the administration's assurances are not true.
I believe the administration is heading for full decontrol, and full decontrol will, at least in the Chicago area, double what a family is paying for heating bills now, from $700 to $1,400 a year.
Already, a lobbying group says the average annual gas bill has gone from $307 in 1978 to $520 in 1981. And if no regulations change, they say it'll go through the $1,000 level by 1984. The gas companies have taken a position opposing a sudden lifting of regulation.
And making such a dramatic change in economic policy, you must move gradually from one system to the other to avoid the extraordinary shocks and disruption in the economy. That's what Congress had in mind.
So another confrontation is developing in Washington, and in Chicago, Stella Malone says it's too much.
We would like to know, where do we stand, and how could you stop these bills from going up?
We have to stop it, she says. The free market doesn't matter much when it's cold outside. Ned Potter, CBS News, Chicago.
A research group with ties to the Reagan administration today said, quote, "The president's failure to take the energy crisis seriously now is a prescription for disaster later in this decade." The Georgetown University Center for Strategic and International Studies concluded Energy Fortress America is vulnerable. Many of us were early advisors to the Reagan administration, a spokesman said, but he added U.S. energy policy is being characterized by Europe and Japan as one of naivete and incoherence.
Oh, Sue, what's wrong?
I love ice cream, but it hurts my teeth, Mr. Perry. They're sensitive to cold and hot.
Here's something new for sensitive teeth. Promise toothpaste.
It works?
For relief, nothing you can buy works better than the active ingredient in Promise. It's my regular toothpaste. Tastes great.
Okay.
How are those sensitive teeth, Sue?
Promise really works.
For sensitive teeth, try new Promise toothpaste. They promise, and I promise. It works.
When Sharp replaced 300,000 transistors and diodes with this tiny chip, it opened a whole new world of wonders. Like taking a big copier and everything it can do and making it into one of the smallest any paper copiers in the world. Introducing the Sharp SF750 copier. The Sharp SF750, a very small, very big idea. And where do big ideas like this come from? From sharp minds come sharp products.
Question: should Bob Jones University in South Carolina and Goldsboro Christian Schools in North Carolina have tax-exempt status? The Reagan administration tomorrow will ask the Supreme Court for an answer. Lower courts have held that if fundamentalist religious schools' beliefs result in racial discrimination, they should lose their tax exemption. Wayne Williams, who is accused of killing 2 young Atlanta blacks, was a changed man on the witness stand today. Bruce Hall was in the courtroom.
The defense rested its case after an extraordinary morning when a sullen and angry Wayne Williams lashed out at the prosecutor, calling him a fool and taunting the state by saying, "You haven't got no proof that I did anything. All you got is a bunch of hearsay evidence." In a sarcastic tone, he said he had hoped the district attorney had enough common sense not to go to the grand jury with what Williams called a bunch of ridiculous evidence. During the exchange, the jurors stopped taking notes and began just watching Williams on the stand. It was a startling change from his calm and collected appearance yesterday. Williams accused the state of programming its witnesses to say things against him, causing prosecutor Jack Mallard to ask if he had been programmed. Williams snapped, "No. You want the real Wayne Williams? You got him right here." He then proceeded to label the police and FBI as Keystone cops and the 2 agents in the courtroom as goons. He refused to answer some questions, asking instead, "Man, what does that have to do with killing somebody?" As he neared the end of his cross-examination, Prosecutor Mallard, referring to the murders, asked, isn't it true that this was your center stage and that this is the challenge of your lifetime? For a second time, Williams replied, you must be a fool. When defense attorney Alvin Binder began to question him again, he told the obviously agitated Williams, you don't have to be upset now, son. Williams said, I'm trying not to, but the prosecutor won't let me get my whole statements across, and that's just not fair. After Williams returned to his seat, he quietly began to cry. Judge Clarence Cooper then called a 10-minute recess. The state has begun presenting rebuttal witnesses, and a case could go to the jury by the end of the week. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Atlanta.
Place won't be the same without you, Helen.
I could stay on a few more years.
Many Americans retire with only a gold watch to show for their service. As one of the country's largest insurance companies, Century is helping corporations offer their employees more. Century developed a benefits package called Retired Lives Reserve, providing life insurance protection and peace of mind that continues even after retirement.
Helen, all's well that ends well.
All's well that begins well.
With Century, you know all's well.
Who needs Dr. Scholl's air pillow insoles?
You do if you work with your feet.
I walk all day long. Without Dr. Scholl's air pillow insoles, I quit.
I hardly take a step, but I couldn't do this without my air pillow insoles.
Thin enough to slip comfortably into your shoes. And heavenly soft to cushion every step all day long. Who needs Dr. Scholl's air pillow insoles?
Just about anybody who hasn't got them.
A dozen Muslim gunmen stormed a Kuwaiti airliner. Shortly after it landed at Beirut airport today, they took the 105 people aboard hostage. The gunmen demanded release of a religious leader they believe is being held in Libya. 7 hours after the takeover, the hijackers fired at Lebanese troops surrounding the plane, wounding at least 2. Poland's Communist Party Central Committee today held its first meeting since martial law was imposed more than 10 weeks ago, and it heard a blistering attack on the United States. Party leader and military ruler Jaruzelski, using Cold War language of a quarter a century ago, denounced U.S. policy towards Poland. He said that policy is aimed at destabilizing the country and is a threat to world peace. Sales of used cars are booming. So are citizen complaints about being cheated on used car lots. So the Federal Trade Commission wants used car dealers to be required to tell customers about known major defects in the cars they sell. Dealers, of course, don't want that. Congress today began debating the issue. But Bill Moyers explains how it may already have been settled in the dealers' favor because of their big money political contributions.
This is the sticker the Federal Trade Commission thought would even the odds between buyer and seller. If the dealer knew something was wrong with the car, he would be expected to write it on this form. But to one of the country's largest political action committees, this black and white sticker became a bright red flag.
Here it is right here. I said it's 60 pages, you know, and it's such small print. That's
supposed to be simple, isn't it?
And that's supposed to be simple. And I said,
the Executive Committee of the National Automobile Dealers Association, whose 20,000 members are rallying to defeat the FTC's used car rule.
We do not oppose the fact that there could be a sticker on the windshield of every used car. We really oppose only one part of the rule, and that is the disclosure of known defects.
Patricia Bailey is a Republican commissioner of the FTC.
I know a dealer selling to another dealer discloses known defects and gives all this information. Well, I think what the commission is saying is we don't wish to be draconian about all these problems. Why doesn't a dealer just say to a potential buyer the things he would himself demand of another dealer when buying a car?
Would it, however, protect the public? Would it enable the public to know that it's buying a car whose defects are listed there on the windshield by the dealer?
To some extent it could, but the negative aspects would outweigh the positive. We've not been clearly understood by the public. Fortunately, we have been clearly understood, and our position is recognized, the logic and intelligence of it, by the members of Congress who have co-sponsored our legislation.
It was indeed the dealer's proposal to kill the FTC rule, but 45 members of the Senate and 216 of the House quickly embraced it as their own.
The only disturbing part to me early on in the session last time was that so many members of the Congress were willing to co-sponsor a resolution to veto the rule. before the hearings had been held, before we could address the questions that they might have, or before the rule was itself really explained in an open forum to the Congress.
The president of Common Cause, Fred Wertheimer, thinks it happened that way because the car dealers revved up their political action committee.
Now, they obviously made a decision that they were going to get into the business of buying influence in Congress. And that's what they've done. You know, most people probably have never heard of the National Automobile Dealers Association in this country, but almost everyone on Capitol Hill knows who they are.
Here's why. Contributions from the Car Dealers Political Action Committee increased over 7,000% in just 6 years to over $1 million in the 1980 elections, making it the nation's 4th largest PAC. What do you expect to get from that?
An audience, an intelligent audience. The main result of our Dealers Election Action Committee is a very responsible one, and that is to ask for an intelligent and a receptive audience to let us tell our story, because that's a very difficult thing to do.
It opens doors.
And it opens doors to someone who would listen to us.
So contributions win an audience, but do they win support? Once the door is open, is there a connection between the giving and the voting?
There is no direct connection, and I have heard of no direct connection between any individual political contribution and the sponsorship of this particular veto bill.
There is a connection between used car dealer money and votes for the used car dealers.
Congress Watch, the public interest lobby, examined how Capitol Hill responded to the campaign to kill the FTC rule. Staff Attorney Jay Engoff thinks there was more than a casual relationship between money and votes.
Well, the data shows that members of Congress that got money from the used car dealers were 3 times as likely to co-sponsor the resolution to kill the used car rule as were those members who got no money from the used car dealers.
Case in point, the House Energy and Commerce Committee voted to kill the rule. Of the 27 members who voted against it, 26, all but 1, received money from the dealers' PAC. Those who voted with the dealers got $84,000 and change. The 14 who voted against the dealers had received only $8,300 and change.
If you were a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee and you got over $1,000 from the NADA, you were almost certain to vote to kill the FTC's used car rule.
We were going to win by such a wide margin.
Congress will give its final judgment on the used car rule this session, but the dealers are confident of the outcome.
But William, we're on the hill. Are we going to win it, or
We're bound to win it, right? No way around that.
And indeed they won the first round. Before there were even any hearings, nearly half the members of Congress signed up to oppose the used car rule. You don't have to like the rule to wonder at the effects on the process of those open doors whose hinges were greased with money. I'm Bill Moyers.
Selective Service said today that more than 900,000 young men required to do so still have not registered. The deadline for registration is Sunday. Failure to register carries penalties up to 5 years imprisonment.
We'll be ready for you in 2 minutes. Okay. Hi. You've seen us in Amway commercials, and perhaps you thought, well, they're just actors.
We are, but we're also earning extra income as Amway distributors. Like all 1 million Amway distributors, we run our own independent business, built our own sales organization.
Right now, we'd like to show you some of the things that make being an Amway distributor very special.
Like making new friends. Amway distributors offer home care products, food supplements, housewares, and personal care items to our friends and neighbors.
And friends recommend others.
Before you know it, Amway distributors make new friends they'd never have met without Amway.
It's not surprising that people are curious about Amway.
Amway distributors tell them the whole story, show friends how to work toward financial independence as Amway distributors.
That's how Amway distributors build an organization of their own. As they do, Amway distributors win higher awards as their businesses grow. Here's what can really happen. As an Amway distributor, you simply build your business as large as you want to reach your idea of success.
And for many Amway distributors, success means a better life, the joy of helping others, and the satisfaction of being recognized for what you've accomplished.
Cut. Beautiful take.
Isn't the world of Amway an exciting place to be?
And you can be part of it.
It's easy. Just listen when an Amway distributor wants to tell you more.
maybe you'll decide that Amway's the opportunity you've been looking for all your life.
President Reagan today delivered what amounted to a pep talk to Voice of America personnel on the 40th anniversary of that organization. And reaching back into his own experience, Mr. Reagan spoke of the element of truth in the VOA's broadcasts, which go behind the Iron Curtain.
I remember my first experience because more than 40 years ago, I was a pioneer in radio, a sports announcer. And I found myself broadcasting Major League Baseball games from telegraphed reports. I was not at the stadium. You had to keep right up with the play, even though you weren't there. So you'd get a little slip and it would say, out, 6-3. Well, now, number 6 on a team is the shortstop, not on his back. That's the numbered position. Number 3 is first base, so you knew that had to be a ground ball to the shortstop. Now, if the game was rather dull, you could say, it's a hard hit ball down towards second base. The shortstop's going over after the ball, makes a wild stab, picks it up, turns, and gets him out just in time. Now, I submit to you that I told the truth. It was out from shortstop to first. And I don't know whether he really ran over towards second base and made a one-hand stab or whether he just squatted down and took the ball when it came to him. But the truth got there, and in other words, it can be attractively packaged.
New York Mayor Ed Koch this week announced his candidacy for governor, and no sooner had he done that than Playboy magazine published an interview in which the Gabby mayor seemed to alienate a lot of voters he will need for election. Bernard Goldberg explains how.
The interview just hit the newsstands. Koch in December telling Playboy he'd never run for governor, that it's a terrible position. And everyone knows when a politician says something, he means it.
I have decided to run for governor of New York State.
Today, the mayor who would be governor is learning an old political lesson. Say whatever you want once you get elected, as long as you don't plan to run again. Koch, the mayor, on suburbia. It's sterile. It's nothing. It's wasting your life. Koch, the candidate, really today.
I'm not putting down the lifestyle of other people.
Especially when those other people vote for governor. And how about Koch, the mayor, on country life? It's a joke, choosing between living with people and living with animals. A joke? Animals? Koch, the sheepish candidate today, saying, just kidding. Nevertheless,
if I could go back in some time warp to December and not have the interview, obviously,
the candidate who sometimes calls himself Mayor Culpa had learned another political lesson. When you shoot from the hip, it's easy to shoot yourself in the foot. Bernard Goldberg, CBS News, New York.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Wednesday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Years ago, my mother told me a secret I never really believed. She said oil of Olay had helped her look younger. Then one day I looked at her, really looked at her when she wasn't wearing makeup. Her skin looked radiant, almost glowing. I don't think anyone would guess her age, even if they caught her with nothing but mascara. That was the day I started using oil of Olay, myself.
Believe in the secret of oil of Olay. It can help you look younger, too.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. This is CBS.
A guard at the main prison has been stabbed. He was critically wounded, apparently by an inmate. We'll have full details coming up next on Eyewitness News.
From Television 5, this is Eyewitness News, weather, and sports.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Clark. Jan Ryan is off tonight, and here is the news. A guard and an inmate were stabbed at the main prison in Nashville late this afternoon. Prison authorities say